Well, good morning. How are you all today? Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I want to tell you that the worst may be coming, and you'd better get ready before we get to that. Oh, by the way, a lot of people said they really enjoyed Mark talking with me yesterday and asked about a possible Stonemont podcast. I said, that's a pretty good idea. And I ran it past him. He says, yeah, I think we can do that. So I'll be thinking about that. And we might do it over on the Stonemont channel. I don't put hardly anything over there, but I have it just in case. And so I will let you know about that because there's a lot of things that we want to talk about. And, and Mark is such a great wealth of information and opinion. I'd love to do that with him, and maybe some other people too. I've talked to some other friends that I say, hey, we ought to sit down and talk about different things, and so maybe we'll do that. We will see. Also, I had a lot of comments on our hats yesterday. It is getting cool, so it is the time for those of you interested in hats, cowboy hats specifically. I'll put this in right here. For those people who say, get to the point about the horrible things coming. I don't care about your hat and this and that. Well, go leave now. Leave now. This is kind of a nice community here. I enjoy talking to everybody, and most of the people here are excellent folks. 99% of people here are great people, and we just kind of chat for a few minutes before I get into the nitty gritty. So bye bye to you. Now for the rest of you good folks, some people asked about hats. It is cooling off now, so it's time to move over to the felt hats. And then there's no real rule. People ask, is there a rule? Is there a certain date that you cannot wear? Well, no, not really. As some people will say that there is, but that's hogwash. I wear a straw hat when it's hot, and I wear a felt hat when it's cool or cold, because they keep your head warm, believe it or not. Now, this one right here, because people will ask, this one here is not an expensive hat at all. Matter of fact, this is a Cabela's 3X, which is about as low as you can get. And it's a wool hat as opposed to beaver felt. And I like it. It's actually, I have to trim the brim a little bit because this is a 4.5-inch brim, and I prefer a 4-inch or a 4 1/4. And I know it doesn't seem like much, but it kind of depends on, your head shape, your head size, things, what looks better on you. And I prefer a 4-inch brim. That's just the way I am. Doesn't make me right, just makes me right for me, right? I don't know what's right for you. But you can get hats up to $5,000 and higher I've talked about that a little bit in my books. So anyway, that's about the hats. I want to make a video recommendation. I just got done watching a video of Cynthia over at Roots, Rocks, and Feathers, and she talked about what they will do, she and her husband, if the worst happens with this upcoming election. I won't tell you what she says, but I highly recommend that you watch it. And Cynthia has a new hairstyle, and it looks nice. So go over and listen to her. She is not one of these people always trying to scare you. I avoid those channels. I can't take it anymore. The people just telling you every day about the horrible things that just happened and the things you better worry about and all this. And I tell you what, you eat a steady diet of that, you keep swallowing that stuff, and you're going to think life is miserable. And your life should not be miserable. Your life should be a Stonemont of your own, which reminds me, by the way, I've just decided, I hope you're drinking your coffee this morning out of your Stonemont mug. You can't, unless you came to the gathering, you can't get one of these, but you can order our others off our website. But I just decided, and this reminded me to tell you, that our next year, the 2025 Stonemont Integrative Preparedness Gathering, I've decided will be on October 4th. And it's going to be in the Kansas City area. It might be where it was last year. And so for those of you who were there, you know where that is. And don't tell the people who weren't. And it might be someplace else. I found another place that I like real well. So we'll just kind of see. I have a neighbor just coming out who blows leaves off his driveway. He's got 3 leaves on his driveway, and he wants to blow them off every morning. That's all right. We'll just listen to him we'll pretend that that noise is the world falling apart, right? And if we can't handle that, boy, you're going to have a hard time in SHTF and Peotwaukee. So we'll ignore it. And I'll keep talking because I have a lot of things to do today. We're headed up to Lincoln, Nebraska today. So anyway, keep that in mind, October 4th. I decided that because it's going to be a little bit cooler than July in Kansas. And it's going to let a lot of people have a lot of things going on during the summertime. A lot of people weren't able to make it this year because of, conflicting plans and family trips and things like that. I think this will help a lot more people get there. And it's going to be, it's pretty pleasant in Kansas in early October. And so that's what we'll do. And I'll be talking more about that. I really enjoyed the last one. Didn't have a chance to talk to everybody as much as I wanted to, but we'll try to remedy that this next one. Okay, I think I've covered all of the incidentals, and now that the people who don't care about the real stuff are gone, we'll talk about that. Hang on half a second. Okay, so anyway, as I'm sure you've been paying attention, and I have not been paying close attention, but I get the highlights of what's going on in the world. And I see that this political race now is getting about as dirty as I've ever seen it. Now, politics has always been dirty. And I come from Kansas City, an old machine, organized crime town. I know how dirty politics can get. And so these people who come on and say, well, it's just, different wings of the same bird, you're not telling me anything. As a matter of fact, you're showing me that you don't understand because different things happen depending on which party is involved. Now, if the wrong party gets in here, and you heard me talk yesterday. I have no respect for anybody who doesn't vote. They're weak and they don't want to stand up for anything. They're not people that I have any respect for. Neither should you. It's not a high-minded. I'm too good for this stuff. It's weakness. And they are not standing against the greater evil, which means that they are aiding and abetting the greater evil. And what does that make them? But we're coming up on probably the most consequential election in my lifetime, and from everything that I've seen, just what they did the last few days, this is the dirtiest election I have ever seen. The dirtiest political process. Now, we know why that is. One side is purely evil. I'm going to get off that for now because we can call it every name that we want to. It's not going to make a bit of difference if we are not prepared to deal with it. And my question to you is, are you prepared to deal with it? And what I mean by that is, imagine yourself waking up on a November 6th and they say, the Democrats have won. President-elect Kamala Harris has now, she's enjoying her victory and preparing her transition team, and she's going to do all the things that she says she's always said she wanted to do. What are you going to do? I told you yesterday, buy guns. Buy guns right now, because if that happens, there's going to be a run on guns like you didn't see ever before, and it's going to be a run on ammo, and that's going to cause prices to increase, and then shortages you won't be able to get. Now, I want to extrapolate that over to other things. If that happens, the the relationship between the United States and other countries is going to change drastically. They are going to see our weakness. First off, those who hate America will see a great ally in President Harris. And so they will start making their moves knowing that she's not going to stand against it. And I just want you to think of everything that could mean. Okay. Those who have in the past considered themselves our allies, at least as long as our interests mesh with theirs, are going to start pulling away because they will see the coming weakness of the United States. We were very weak we've been weak during Biden. We were weak during Obama. We were weak during Clinton. But still all of those, they had some pushback. The rest of the world knew that the American people just might come back and push back against it. And they did with Trump. But if they see this, they recognize this, as you should, as the final chance that the United States had. As if Trump does not get in, uh, it's over, guys. I mean, it's over until the big collapse, and then we just try to build it back up. That's all there is to it, and that's going to be a mess. That is going to be a mess supreme. And then internally, we're going to see that those who promote uh, the Marxist communist agenda here in the United States are going to see that they are now supported, and they're going to be forcing all of these new Marxist programs, communist programs, through on us. It's going to go everything from gun confiscation to the shutting down of more conservative news outlets. They're going to be putting people in jail, Trump and anybody that they can think of. Is going to be, somebody asked yesterday, and I don't. This will probably allow me to answer a question when somebody says, "Did you delete my comment?" Somebody put in there, when was martial law declared? And I don't know if they were being snarky or what. So I didn't. I answered them, and I said, martial law is any time any of our constitutional rights have been infringed. And people don't think of it that way. They think that martial law is an MRAP at the end of your block, checking your IDs, making sure that they will let you leave your neighborhood. No, that's not it. I mean, that's it. That's it towards the extreme. But anytime our constitutional rights are infringed, that is essentially martial law to a small degree, but to a degree. And you're going to see that more often, increasing. It'll go, well, in some ways it'll go slowly, but some ways it'll go quickly. They will come down with a hammer, and especially if they're able to take the House and the Senate. Are you ready for that? Are you ready for that? And while you think about that, let me say this to some people that have asked me, "Hey, did you delete my comment?" Probably not. YouTube has a way of making certain comments disappear. Simple as that. And I've had a lot of people get kind of upset or questioning, "Steve, I don't think I was out of line. What And I said, "Well, no, I don't remember deleting your comment. These things happen. These things happen, and there's not a lot we can do about it. And this is, the the government control of the media is fascism, because it's still privately owned. People don't realize the difference between communism and fascism, and they both arrive at the same place just by different means. But anyway, if you think that I deleted your comment, just ask yourself what your comment was. Okay. Was it rude? Was it argumentative? Was it snarky? Did you use profanity? Did you, or were you trolling around in the comments, answering comments as if you think that I wouldn't see your comment? I read every comment, and I read every answer to every comment, because I don't allow trash to stay around. Okay. I pick up the trash and dispose of it so everybody else has a nice time here on the channel. So that's the quick answer to that. Now, getting back to, are you ready? Are you ready if that would happen? What is the worst that could happen? It would be difficult for me to sit here and try to itemize all the worst things that could happen. This is where your personal, your imagination has to come to work here. Okay, what if they bring in what if disease X, remember they were talking about disease X for a while, and there's an airplane. They were talking about disease X for a while, and trying to see if they could scare everybody. And then they were talking about H5N1, the avian flu, and that didn't seem to hold water, and so you didn't hear about that for a while. And now, because of the open border, we're seeing diseases come into our country that we haven't seen in generations. Polio, but tuberculosis, all sorts of things. They are already through their executive orders and through their policies, they are infecting this entire country. They're infecting you. They're doing it through an invasion, an alien invasion. They're doing it through what they put in our water, what they put in our food, what they're put in our skies, what they put in our plastic bottles, what they put in our arms. Not my arm, hopefully not yours, but they're coming at us from every direction. There's been news come out just in the last few days that I can't even mention on here, or it will get this video blocked. I mean, hopefully you're up to date on it. You need to keep yourself apprised of all of the things that are going on in our world, because we simply can't talk about that here. But they are coming at us from every direction, and if we see a Harris Waltz victory, you can just up that 10 or 100 times, because it's going to be coming. It's going to be coming slow, and it's going to be coming fast. It's going to be coming from every direction you can imagine. And like I like to say, like Chuck Norris likes to say, they're going to hit us with so many rights, we're going to be begging for a left. Well, we won't be well, that is with so many lefts, right? We'll be begging for a right. We'll try to counterpunch, but they're going to make it extremely difficult. So what should you do? This is always the crux. This is always what I come down to. And the answer is, you have to prepare to be able to sustain yourself separate from all of those external, interrelated systems over which you have little or no control. And that means your food, your water, your shelter, your protection, your contact, your people, all of that. I mentioned the other day about the new book that I'm working on. It's a modern organized crime book, and it explains, and for those of you who are on, well, if you'd like to see the cover, it's over. I put it over on Patreon. Some things I just restrict to Patreon. If you're not with us over there, the link is down below. We'd love to have you. Please come join. It's a great. I had somebody said the other day. They said, and this gives you an example of the difference between the Patreon community and the YouTube community. And they said, I started watching this on the YouTube channel, and it reminded me why I'm on Patreon. it is that different. If you're serious about this stuff, guys, or if you're just nice folk, come join us on Patreon. There's a bunch of great people over there who will further help you in addition to what I said. But we say these things all the time. It's about you being able to sustain yourself independent of all of the external systems. Now how can, well, I'm sorry, what I was starting to say is in my book, and I read an excerpt of the book yesterday, you have to make certain decisions in your mind. You have to decide whether you think that our government has your best interests in mind. You have to make your decision as to whether you think our government is moral or immoral. You have to make your decision as to whether obedience to an immoral government is moral or immoral. And there will be some, I'm going to start putting more messages up on the church channel, because I think that a lot of people out there who identify as Christians misunderstand a great many things, a lot of things. And I'll tell you, one of the problems in our country right now are the churches. The churches started off as one of the foundational stones of our country, and they've gotten away from it. All the woke churches out there preaching a gospel of acceptance of immorality is it is what really has it maybe not caused but exacerbated and certainly aided in the collapse of our country, because without morality a people we'll collapse. And so I'm going to put out probably some more messages on the church channel that I through reading comments and seeing other channels, I think there's great misunderstanding about a lot of things. And people who identify as Christians, need to know these things, because a lot of you are making the wrong decisions, basing it on scripture that you don't understand. And so, one of which, the reason I got into this, is that Paul told you to obey the government. Does that mean in all things? He says, well, God puts all governments here, and you should obey the government. Okay, so if the government comes and asks you if you got Jews hiding in your attic, well, bring them out. Do you bring them out? Ask yourself that. And this is not a opening up of the Jewish question, or your support or non-support of Israel, or anything like that. It's an example. Okay, if think of all the things the government can tell you to do that you would find immoral. I'll let you run with that. I'm not going to try to. Every time I try to use specific examples, I'll get people come out and try to latch onto one little thing of a yeah, but this, yeah, but that. Hey, think larger than that. Well, you have to be your own decider on that, as George W. said, but also you have to understand the true meaning of what Scripture says. Go back to Paul himself. Okay, what was Paul before he became Paul? He was Saul the Pharisee, right? Doing the Pharisees' business of hunting down and killing Christians. And then he met Jesus. After that, did he continue to hunt down Christians? I don't believe so, did he? But that's what the government said to do, his government, okay? His Jewish government. This isn't about today's Jews. It's about that time. Answer that, and I think you'll understand. But you have to decide what you're going to do. And it can get terrible. And the time to prepare for the worst is during better times. Once it starts getting worse, your time is up. It's going to be very hard. Now you've gone from preparing to surviving. And it's one of the things that I've always talked about. When I talk about preparedness, I talk about preparedness in the sense of preparing to live a good life, a high-quality life, not just surviving. It's fun to camp, it's fun to do this, it's fun to do that, but how many times once you get back do you enjoy that long hot shower? Do you enjoy being able to turn on your stove and go to your refrigerator and get what you need, and cook up a nice meal, and sit down in your dining room and have the family around and eat? Do you enjoy that? I do. We've come a long way over the last couple of thousand years, haven't we? We have just called development. We've gotten better. And some people will say, well, yeah, but all those things aren't better. Okay, I get that. Doesn't mean that none of them are. Okay. And too many people approach this with an either or. Either it has to be this or it has to be that. And they don't see that, within almost everything, there is some good and there's some bad. And you've got to decide which is which, for you, and go with that. But if a certain thing happens here on November 5th, you're going to see the decline toward the worst that can happen. I mean, the worst who can say what the worst that can happen is? But you need to prepare for it, whatever you can imagine, and then more, because you can't imagine. I don't think the average American can imagine what could happen in this country, or Canadian. Canadians are closer; they got Trudeau up there, but you Aussies, you already gave up all your guns, and you Brits, you already gave up all your guns, and wow. But here in America, we're still trying to fight the good fight, and we will see who keeps fighting and who doesn't. And there's different ways to fight. I'm not telling you to rise up. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there are ways to do it. And there are smart ways to do it that will result in a win instead of a bunch of martyrs. Okay. Well, what is that, Steve? You need to give us the details. No, you need to figure out the details. Because I would be stupid to talk about the details here, wouldn't I? Which makes me wonder, why did you ask that? I'll be answering a lot of these questions in the book that's coming out. I think a lot of you will find it interesting. I think a lot of you will learn something about it. We are living, I'll just tag this with this. We are living in a time that it's fertile soil for the rise of another wave of organized crime, because organized crime usually happens as a result of an oppressive government and the desire on the part of some people to be able to support their families and take care of their families and not be a part of the oppressive, immoral government. How about that? All right, I'm going to get off. I've got a million things to do today, all of which I look forward to. Your day should be the same. You should look forward to every day. You should be happy in everything that you do. And if you're not, I encourage you to change it. And it can be changed, but it's tough. Okay. You know, what I used to tell people when I used to train people in very, very tough things. And anytime somebody said, oh, but this is really tough or hard or whatever, I'd say, okay, don't do it. Quit. Up to you. Yeah, it can be hard. You can do it or not. That's your choice. And your life is the sum of the choices you make, right? If somebody said, I saw something like this. You don't. Well, I'm not going to try. I'm going to go back and see it so I can say it right, because they said it exactly right. Maybe I'll get that to you tomorrow. But anyway, think about this. Think about the worst that can happen and start preparing for it. Now's the time. The time, if the worst starts coming, your time to prepare will be over. And then you go into survival mode. And I'll tell you, survival ain't that much fun. It's not. It can be challenging, but it ain't fun. All right. You all have a great day. Remember, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.